Coterminal angles, what's up? Let's go. Just jump right into it. Coterminal angles, straight from your book. It's letting you know if they terminate at the same spot. They're coterminal. So look, you got a positive angle going this way, and you got a negative angle going this way, but they went to the same spot. They're coterminal. I showed you a bunch of them in the first video. I just didn't tell you it was coterminal. I just wrote them so you could see it. But we could also have it where you just take a little angle, alpha, but maybe you got a bigger angle, beta, that's actually going to wrap all the way around in a circle and come back around. Still facing the same way. It's like a snowboarder that does a 180, just turns around their position, or a snowboarder that jumps up and does a 540. They're still pointing the same direction. They're coterminal to each other because they terminate at the same spot. This is a huge concept when solving things in trigonometry. Once we start messing around with those terms, I know you've heard of them, sine, cosine, and tangent. We're going to find out that sine, cosine, and tangent doesn't give a shit how many times you spun around in a circle. It only cares where you ended up. So it's a giant concept where it may seem simple, but we've got to know the relationship between coterminal angles. So let's mess around with a few. I'm going to start with degrees, and then we'll move into radians. Your book really kind of just gets you going right away into radians on this, but I thought let's just play around. So I'm just going to give you some examples. So I'm going to do this way. I'm going to write in now. I'm going to give you a term here. These are our quadrantial angles. 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, because they're not in any quadrant. They're in no quadrant whatsoever. They're actually the borders. So things like 0, 90, 180, 270, 360, that many degrees, those are what we call quadrantial angles. They're not in either quadrant. All right, moving on. So I'm just going to draw some angle. Doesn't really matter what. Go, all right, boom. Let's make it right here. And we're going to say that this theta, let's make it 135 degrees. Now I want to come up with a coterminal angle. Coterminal angle. Now really the game is you just add and subtract frickin' 360s. You just add and subtract 360s. So I'm going to jump aside and talk about this and be like, all right, let's talk about this angle phi. And we're going to say phi is this one. It's this angle here. There's phi. We want to know what it is. It's simply, you want to get an angle that's negative, that's going to be the same coterminal as what we had before. You're like, no biggie. Hey, y'all, hold my beer. And it's just this. 135. You want to get the other one? This is going to work every single time. Just subtract out 360. Just subtract out 360 and let's see what we get. Let's see if it makes sense. Like, in my head, I'm going like, oh, what is that going to be when you calculate it? And then we get it's not 215, but oh, that's negative 215 because we subtracted 360. Now, sorry, let me write that to where you can actually read the damn thing. Sorry about my terrible writing. So we got negative 215 degrees. Now, just to make sure you get, like, this is negative 180, and then we're going to go another, like, 45. So isn't this about negative 180? Because 180 and negative 180 are the same thing, right? It doesn't matter if you do a 180 to the left, you do a 180 to the right, you're still going to point at the same spot, aren't you? So doesn't that make sense that this would be 180 degrees negative? And that this one would just be negative 45 to get to there? Should. That's a coterminal angle. That's just the way we can find ourselves, a little coterminal angle. So we found our phi. Now let's take this same angle and let's see if we can't find a different one. But let's make it another coterminal angle, but let's make it bigger. So now what we're going to do, let's call it alpha is going to equal, and let's take our 135, and if we want to find something coterminal to it, just add 360 degrees. Or add 360 plus 360 plus 360 plus, it'll always be coterminal because when you spin around in a circle, you end up back at the same freaking spot. So by adding or subtracting multiples of 360, you will find coterminal angles. So if we add those two things together, we're like, that's going to be, what, 495, which is saying we're going to do this. We're going to go 135 degrees. There's the 135. And now we're going to spin around in a freaking circle. Now, how far is a circle? It's 360. So there's your angle. Alpha is 495 degrees. Coterminal freaking angles, yo. Okay. Now, let's just solidify it. Let's make sure we got this shit down. Now let's say we got an angle. There it is. It's 180 degrees. We'll make sure we have this. Give me a coterminal that's negative. That's the same thing as 180 degrees. It's a coterminal angle that's negative. Or a coterminal to 180 degrees that's negative. What's 180 minus 360? What's 180 minus 360? Oops. Phi. Now it looks like a bullseye. Gosh dang it. 180 minus 360? I'm pretty sure that's going to be, that's negative 180 degrees. That's negative 180 degrees. So make it certain that you know that that's the same thing. They're coterminal, whether you take negative 180 or positive 180. All right. Now we're going to mess around in radians. And the issue here is you're going to need to know how to add and subtract fractions. And I don't believe students in a trigonometry class at the beginning truly have the skills to be able to do this at the beginning. So I'm going to take an angle, just a random one. I hope I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. I'm such a dick about it. But so we're going to take this one here. And we're going to say this angle is pi over 3. I want to find two coterminal angles. I want a positive coterminal angle, and I want a negative coterminal angle. So let's say that we'll go theta is the positive angle, coterminal to pi over 3, and we'll say that phi is going to be the negative angle, coterminal to pi over 3. So it's the same game. What did we do over here? What did we do up top to get a positive angle? Oh shoot, sorry about that. To get a positive angle, the positive angle is right here. We just added 360 degrees to it. And to get a negative coterminal angle, we just subtracted 360 degrees. But now we go back and we're like, well, wait, shit just got changed up on us. 360 degrees is the equivalent of 2 pi radians. So we're not going to actually be taking away 360 degrees to create a negative angle. We're going to be taking away 2 pi radians to create a negative angle. And we're not going to add 360 degrees to a radian. We're going to add 2 pi radians to a radian. So let's go get it. Let's go see what our phi, sorry about, oh, my Surface has been on for about an hour, so it's not going to corrupt my handwriting. My apologies. So if we want a positive one, we need to add 2 pi to it, all right? We got to add 2 pi. 2 pi is the equivalent of 360 degrees. But we got to be able to add fractions. And with fractions, you need a common denominator. So let's give it a 3 on the bottom and a 3 up top. That's multiplying by 1. That's how you add fractions. So theta is equal to pi over 3 plus 6 pi over 3, right? Because 3 times 2 is 6. Now that we have a common denominator, we can put it all over 3. And if we have 1 pi plus 6 pi's, I think that's 7 pi over 3. So we found an angle that if we go all the way around in the circle, that this angle here, theta, is equal to 7 pi over 3. Cool. We did it. Now let's find one that's going to go in the negative direction. So we got our pi over 3 here. Now we want to go find the angle that's going to take off and go around this direction instead. Let's get it. So now we're going to say that our phi here is equal to pi over 3. And now we're not going to add 360. Oh, oops, I mean 2 pi. We want to take away 2 pi. 2 pi. All right, so let's take away that 2 pi now. And again, we need to know how to add and subtract fractions. We're not going to be able to solve this stuff. So let's do it. Let's create that common denominator. We give it a 3 in the bottom and a 3 up top to make that shit match. And once it matches, we're like, oh, cool, now we have our denominator. So I'll write this one out. Pi minus 3 times 2 pi, that's minus 6 pi. So if you have 1 pi, and you're going to take away 6 of those pi's, I think you have negative 5 of those pi's, and you still got the 3 down below. Therefore, keep going back to theta. Sorry about that. It's muscle memory. It's equal to negative 5 pi over 3. And there's our angle. This is negative 5 pi over 3. Going around in this direction. There's our phi. All right. That is how we deal with coterminal angles. This is going to be something of your homework. You're going to be playing around with it quite a bit once you get past it. But this is our game. In the next one, I'm going to show you how to go between degrees and radians. There's just a little quick conversion. We'll play around with a couple of them. And maybe we'll talk about complementary and supplementary angles. I'll see you there.